We're going to be going through why diversity matters, but more importantly for this particular moment, we're here also to model why it matters, which is why you have both of us.
So first, it's my distinct honor to introduce to you Suzie LeVine, the ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Switzerland and Liechtenstein. Now you'd think she's an ambassador. She's got it made in the shade. This must have been so easy. But the essence of Suzie's career path has been about it being non-linear. And so if you look at the image behind me, that is the Grand St. Bernard Pass, which is about the least linear road I have ever seen in my life. And that describes what Suzie has gone through. She started at Brown University with degrees in English and mechanical engineering with aerospace applications. She's a rocket scientist. And her dream was to be an astronaut. She went from there to Microsoft, where she worked on a variety of operating systems, was the first person to publicly demonstrate Windows 95, and then to Expedia, both as part of Microsoft and when it spun out. Then she left the paid workforce to be home with our kids for 4.5 years. And I say paid workforce because raising a family is still work. While she was doing that as well, though, she kept quite busy. No grass grows under Suzie's feet. And she started 2 different nonprofits, one focused on Jewish community and another on early childhood brain development, literally studying how babies' brains work. She went back to Microsoft, focusing on education, and got to see schools and teachers doing some of the most innovative things in the world with technology. She left the workforce again. And then she had gotten involved with both of President Obama's campaigns as a community organizer, as a volunteer. The administration knew about her, and they called her up and asked her to be the ambassador here.
So that's me, but more importantly, I want to introduce you to my extraordinary love of my life and the partner who enables everything that I do, Eric LeVine. Now, our careers and our paths have been almost like a double helix in terms of in and out of the workforce and how they are parallel. You can see here, as we sort of shifted a little bit, Eric graduated from Harvard University with a degree in history. He also went to Microsoft, which was how we met, worked there for 13 years on a technology that I suspect most of you have used. And it is the error reporting. When something crashes, there's that little dialog box that pops up. So he co-invented that with himself and a couple of other people. And what he did in that was basically address and stop software from crashing. Yay, thank you very much. And in that process, he learned a lot about databases. After our second child was born, as you can see with a little girl in the tulips, he took his knowledge of databases and married it with his passion for wine. And he created what is now one of the world's largest wine websites. So he is an entrepreneur who has created this extraordinary business, but he also has a deep love for how are our communities doing. And so he got involved in an organization called Jewish Family Service that supports the social safety net, not just for Jews, but for the community writ large in Seattle. Most recently, President Obama named him to the United States Holocaust Memorial Council. For the purposes of this conversation, what's probably most salient, though, is the job that he has right now, which is as work-at-home dad, and as the person who joins me in what I do pretty much every day. And of course, in still being an entrepreneur, but being here with you.
So speaking of being a dad, so here we have an image, probably 1950s. You can see Dad in the background. His shirt looks terrific. Mom's in front. She's feeding the baby. Dad is a bystander. Probably the last thing he's going to do is pick up this baby. Heaven forbid he gets something on his shirt. So the next image is sort of a modern dad, a revolution in fathering, a dad-olution. And so here you've got a guy, he's holding his baby. Great job, by the way, matching hat and shirt. I know when I went to dress my daughter, I was a little boring, and so she, at a very young age, learned how to dress herself because my choices were too boring for her. But this is sort of the societal image of how parenthood is changing. When I think about how I was raised and my dad, he was a man of incredibly high standards. He himself went to Harvard, magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa. He reminded me of these facts probably every 5 minutes of my life. And I remember when I was 5 years old, probably this tall, he pulled me aside and said, "Eric, to succeed, you need to go to Harvard and then Harvard Business School." He set really, really high standards. Now, I also had 2 amazing older sisters. And so I was really disappointed to learn later in life that his standards for them were that they needed to find great, successful husbands and make lots of babies. And so, you know, it's fine for any grandfather to want babies. That's terrific. But why didn't he want them to go to Harvard? Why didn't he want them to succeed in academics and in business? Why 2 different standards in society? So as we think about what we're doing, we think about the fact that society today will tell you that boys do math and science, and girls will do literature and writing. There's no genetic basis to that, but that actually takes hold at about 5 years old for kids. And so as we think about our kids, our daughter Talia, one of the first things she got really excited about was Lego and robotics and first Lego League. And I think if we were to stay here, she would want to be a robotics engineer and an apprentice. Separately, she is very excited about fashion, and she likes to design dresses on paper. And so you think, robots? Dresses? What's up with that? But again, her mom studied English, and she's a rocket scientist, so why not? Now, our son Sydney is a poet. He wants to be a math teacher. But we've seen the most amazing thing over the last couple of years. We do a lot of events where he gets to babysit for other kids from the embassy community. And watching him, it's like watching the sun come out from behind a cloud. He sees little kids, he lights up, and they gravitate to him. They just stick to him. And he is so unbelievably nurturing. So this notion in society of boys do this and girls do that, we just want to throw it out the window. And so we're making progress, but we actually need more support from our leaders. So one of the most exciting things for me to watch in the last couple of years has been Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And in his first official act, he introduced to the world his cabinet, half men, half women. The first question to him from a woman reporter was, why was that important? And his simple response was, because it's 2015, and he could have just dropped the microphone. And he has been setting such an amazing example and talking about these issues, and he continues to call himself a feminist, and people have a strong reaction. And so he says he'll keep doing that until people stop having such a reaction, because men can be feminists too. And so we got a chance to see him speak this past year at the World Economic Forum on an amazing panel on gender and diversity. And what really stuck with me was him talking about the fact that he tells his daughter every day she can be anything she wants to be. But his wife had to remind him that it was just as important for him as he talks to his sons to remind them to respect women and to enable that.
The interesting question here is, enabling women and gender and diversity just a social good, right? Women's rights are human rights. Human rights are women's rights, which is in fact the case. Well, when I started my career at Microsoft, as Eric shared, I worked in operating systems. More specifically, I worked in the Jurassic period of technology on MS-DOS, which for those out here who know MS-DOS, congratulations, you're as old as I am. And I was the only woman on the team at the time when I joined. And in fact, there had been a woman on the team prior, but she left a week before I started because I think there was a conservation of women in technology at the time. And I went to my first big business meeting in my first week at work. And I went in there, and it was all guys and me. And I was probably the shortest, I certainly was the youngest. And they were discussing feature names for the next version of MS-DOS. Now, the name that we landed on was data protection technology. However, that scintillating brand name was not the first choice. Instead, the first choice the fellas came up with, that they shared in the room, was something like maxi protection technology. Now, I hear some laughs in the room. And that's because those people understand what I subsequently said at that moment. I raised my meek little hand and I said, gentlemen, I'm sorry, but that sounds like something that people are only going to use once a month. To their credit, because they're all amazing people and they have amazing spouses, they listened and they did not choose the name that would have been extremely embarrassing and instead went with the name that was relatively boring. But it speaks to the point that women are an incredible percentage of consumers, more than half of consumers out there. Women are an incredible percentage of the decision makers. So gender and diversity isn't just good for the soul, it's good for business. And study after study is now showing that companies get better results when they have more diverse groups. And it's not just okay to have a token woman in the room. What I love about this particular study from Catalyst is you show the benefits of 3 or more women in these kinds of decision-making spaces. And that way you can amplify each other's voices and be able to have a better impact in there. Now, a key thing about diversity is that it doesn't always feel good. When you have debates about things, you churn and you discuss, and it feels a little rough. In fact, in some studies, it shows that more diverse groups underrate their performance, as compared especially with more homogeneous groups who might be sort of high-fiving each other. Yes, we got the high five today. We often miss that. We can synchronize on other things, but physical movement is not our forte. So, in terms of homogeneous groups, they may think that their work is terrific because they all came up with it together, but it is probably not as good a result as bringing a diverse group together. So the way I try to position it with folks is that gender diversity is corporate fiduciary responsibility. And if I went to a company and said, you could improve your results 5 to 10%, let me tell you how, I shouldn't have that conversation with the diversity manager. I should have that conversation with the CFO. But diversity is not just about gender diversity. It's about diversity writ large, whether that's racial diversity, gender diversity, sexual orientation diversity, age diversity, religious diversity. We are better when we are more diverse. And in this amazing, iconic image, what you see is also a young boy able to envision himself as the President of the United States of America. The president bent down to allow this boy to feel his hair and know that he is just like the president. Incredible, an incredible moment, and something where we need to allow our young people to see themselves in these leadership roles.
Speaking of leaders, when we think about diversity, one of the key challenges is around gender. We do need more women leaders. We need more people like Suzi, but to enable that, we need to create space. We need men behind who can do what it takes, whether as dual professional couples or just men at home, to create space so women can lead. Now, for us over here the last 2.5 years, this has been a really interesting experience where I am very decidedly behind. She's the ambassador. But it's been a remarkable learning experience for us. Now, one of our secret weapons is that her mom has come to Switzerland with us, and so that enables us to get out a lot at night. Her mom is an incredible part of our team, and is helping to raise our kids, but fundamentally she is babysitting when we are out at night. I have actually had multiple people, all women, who have met her and met me and have come to me and said, Eric, you are so lucky. Your mother-in-law is raising your children for you. Now, people laugh, and you think about it, but it's a little insulting on two levels. So this is unconscious bias. People look at the situation and they say, well, mom's an ambassador. She's working, so she's clearly not doing it. Dad's a guy, so he's not doing it. So it's got to be grandma, right? So even if that were the case, then the next level is they say, Eric, you're so lucky. I'm happy. I've outsourced the kids, right? As a guy, as a dad, why would I want to do this? So again, as society, we need to do a better job to create space and dignity for families to make their own decisions so we can create more women leaders.
So today is not just about listening. We need you to do something. We need you to be a part of this and to help enable what we are talking about today. So we have 3 recommendations that you can take away with you as you leave this amazing facility. Number 1, if you are a business leader or a manager, or if you're somebody who's looking for a team or who's choosing a team in the near future, hire people who don't look like you. Work for a company that is diverse. And again, this isn't just about a social good. This is about performance. You want to be on a team that's going to do really well. You want to manage a group or have a company that's going to perform really well. And to do that requires diversity. And you need to be the ones who demand it or who make it happen.
So He for She is a UN initiative. We need, in a nutshell, guys to roll up their sleeves, to get engaged, to create space for women, to be role models. Children need more male parent figures in their lives who are actively engaged.
Now, Eric and I visit a lot of companies here in Switzerland, and we're so impressed with the work that's happening here. But we also see, especially in the technology areas, that it's mostly young men. So the last request that I have is for you all to get involved in getting more girls into tech and getting them into the pipeline so that there are no excuses for getting more girls and women up through that pipeline into leadership. This image that I have here is one from EPFL's Internet for Girls program. That, along with various kids' robotics clubs, are great ways to get more girls involved. Because you know what? Girls love tech too, and they're really good at it. And I need all of you to think about how can you mentor, how can you steward, how can you answer little girls and say, you can do anything that you want to do. So with that, we thank you so much for having us here today, and we look forward to being in connection with you. This is just the start of the conversation. Thank you.